morning, sirs and ma'ams. I'm sorry we are starting behind the schedule. Welcome to yet another presentation on our platform, the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Study of the National. Today's presentation, which will be taken by one of our own, our very own, at the National Open University of Nigeria. But before I introduce the presenter, let me, as usual, tell you quickly about our universities, the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Study, which started about 3 years ago. And its purpose is strictly to take care of migration and global issues. And that is what we have been doing for the past years. And the center has the vision to bridge the gap between humanity and the future, and the mission to provide a sustainable leverage for interdisciplinary research in migration and global studies. And of course, our core values are endless, but then majorly we serve as an agent of national policy for migration studies. We also are to seek grants for academic activities and to publish and review the academic journal. You would have seen that a few days back, I did comment that our latest issue of the journal, International Journal for Migration and Global Studies, Volume 3, with the publishers to get to log into our center's journal. And I'm sure you will find most of them very interesting, very informative. So please do well. And of course, we have our social media log in on YouTube, Facebook, so you can go there and see the activities happening in this center. So because of time, I won't say more than this, but just to say I welcome you on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, and I am Gloria Aneto, the director of the center. So you are very much welcome. I'm now going to introduce quickly the presenter for today. Our own Professor Kamal Bello is a professor that is the Dean of the Social Sciences. And I must say, I just asked him once, and he didn't give me stress at all. He was just willing. And that is so wonderful, because many people, you have to ask them many times, but for him, he was just willing to present that for that, persuasion. So I would say he's an ever-ready professor, and give a hand. So I say this is kudos to this our professor, and I go through it's a very rich profile, I must confess, but because of want of time, we won't be able to say all the things I have here to talk about him. School of Statesmanship, Manchester in 1982, University of Lagos, Akoka, 1985 to 1990, with a Bachelor of Arts in Education Curriculum Studies. And he also went to the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University with a post, where he had a postgraduate diploma in public administration and Master of Public Administration by thesis. Then he went to Bayero University. Vice Chancellor will be happy to hear this. He studied, he had MSc in Political Science, Sokoto, where he had his PhD in Political Science. Our professor is his academic career at Ahmadu Bello University's area, and then he rose to senior lecturer, Department of General Studies, and then ran through, became an associate professor to the post of professor through Sokoto. So he became a professor, Department of Political Science, Sokoto State University. Currently, he is
yes, Madam Sir. What you say? No, but I'm disturbing us. I'm a cleaner.
And then I will say it's a very he has over 40 journals and has published 2 textbooks. Okay. Academically, he's an editor in many journals and has supervised over 10 PhDs, and amongst others. And he is an active member of many political, expectedly, many political associations.
Are you hearing me? Kamal, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you. We'll take us all along.
It's okay, sir. Good morning, participants. My former Vice Chancellor, you are heavily recognized, and other professors on the platform and other colleagues. The topic of discussion this morning is an interrogation of the nexus between migration, citizenship, and indigeneship in Nigeria. This presentation is a kind of perspective, a perception that I have. And any perception cannot be totally right. It's an idea, and that is why it's presented to this august audience, so that there can be criticism for improvement. I hold up to all the shortcomings in the presentation. Introduction. The Federal Republic of Nigeria comprises a federal government, 36 state governments, and 774 local government councils. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and among the 10 most populous countries in the world. Our population size and growth patterns depicts that a typical rapidly growing country. The country's population in 1963 was 56 million. It grew to 88 million in 1991 and more than doubled in 1963 figure in just 38 years, reaching 119 million in 2001. Within a span of another 5 years, that is in 2006, the country's population reached 150 million. The 2006 census indicated that the proportion of male population, which is 50.8%,
Okay.
was slightly higher than that of the female,
started.
which is 49.2. The sex at birth is 103 for males and 100 for females.
Now,
That is at birth.
see,
Because as we are growing, other factors might have affected the ratio between male and female.
Adela is
The 26 census
Let me send him a
indicated
message.
that persons younger than age 25 accounted for about 60% of the population, and that children below 15 years of age accounted for about 42%.
Let me go to Adela. He has started presentation.
The prevalence of youth in the population and the
The
strong
devil is
population
at work.
momentum that is built into Nigeria's population suggests that Nigerian population will continue to grow in the next 40 to 50 years, even if fertility is drastically reduced. The population of persons 65 years and above constitutes about 3.2%. Like any other country, Nigeria has experienced migration of people across and within our borders. During the colonial period of the 20th century, the country recorded massive internal migration as people moved from villages and towns into the cities. From the post-colonial period until the 1970s, movement in Nigeria mainly remained largely within the scope of internal migration, although Nigerians also ventured outside the country to West African countries, United Kingdom, and United States. The majority had an ultimate goal of returning because the petrodollar was available in the country then, but that is no more the case in the past 2.5 decades, when the syndrome of Japan has been the controlling syndrome, where people will go, they will not like to come back again. It is based on this background that this present presentation intends establishing the nexus between migration, citizenship, and indigeneship in Nigeria. That is, the study is how to see if internal migration had played a role or not in determining, shape, or reshape the concept of citizenship and indigeneship in Nigeria. Some conceptual explications. In this section, attempts are made to make an explanation of key concepts in the topic under discussion. This is in order to bring to fore their operational usage in the presentation. In other words, it is an attempt to give operational description of those concepts. The concepts include, among others, interrogation, nexus, citizenship, indigeneship, and migration. Interrogation is a formal and systemic questioning. It implies questioning, cross-questioning, cross-examination, quizzing, probing, inquisition, investigation, grilling, among others, in order to arrive at an answer or solution. In the present context, it is to arrive at establishing the relationship between migration, indigeneship, and citizenship in Nigeria. Migration, on the other hand, is the movement of person or people from one country, from one locality, place of residence, to settle in another, which is normal and natural, right away from human creation. People moving from one place to another is not new. Right away from creation, it has been happening. I think all of us know the story of Anabi Adam alayhi salam and the wife who were created in the Garden of Eden. At the end of the day, they migrated to the world. So migration has started from creation. From time immemorial, migration has effected change in human society. It is an instrument of building a nation state and even contributed in no small measure to globalization because it fosters interaction among people of diverse culture, socio-political, and economic backgrounds. It influences individuals and their ways of life and impacts the development of society. The subject of migration is not restricted solely to human migration, but could be movement of animals, among others. However, this present presentation addresses only human migration. Furthermore, the issue of migration can be internal, interstate, intrastate, which is within a geopolitical or geographical scope, or national boundaries, or international, external, which is across national boundaries. But for this presentation, internal migration is the focus. Also, migration can be undertaken voluntarily or involuntarily, and can be for long-term or short-term purposes. While voluntary migration is informed by purposes such as work, business, leisure, education, and a search for greener pastures, among other reasons. Involuntary migration is spurred by natural disasters and environmental challenges like famine, desertification, flood, earthquake, social conflict, or war, among others. The centerpiece of this current presentation is both voluntary and involuntary migrations. It is worthy of note that individuals who migrate out of a geopolitical or a geographical location are regarded as immigrants, while the ones that migrate into a new geographical location are regarded as immigrants. In addition, citizenship implies membership of a natural person to a polity. This status makes a person a citizen of that polity with civil and political rights as well as duties which are not afforded to non-citizens. A citizen as a member of a political community or state is endowed with a set of rights and a set of obligations. Citizenship is therefore the public face of individuals' existence. People are able to participate in the life of their communities to the extent that they possess entitlements and responsibilities. Civil participation is in turn linked to the advancement of constitutional government as reflected in the extension of political rights and civil liberties. Modern citizenship has often been looked at as two competing underlying ideas, and the ideas are the liberal individualist and the civic republican. The liberal individualist, or sometimes liberal conception of citizenship, suggests that citizens should have entitlements necessary for human dignity: right for labor, right to home property, right to vote, right to be voted for. It assumes people act for the purpose of enlightened self-interest. According to this viewpoint, citizens are sovereign, morally autonomous beings with duties to pay tax, obey the law, engage in business transactions, and defend the nation if it comes under attack, but are essentially passive politically, and their primary focus is on economic betterment. This idea began to appear around the 17th and 18th centuries and became stronger over time. According to this formulation, the state exists for the benefit of the citizens and has obligation to respect and protect the rights of the citizens, including civil rights and political rights. It was later that social rights became part of the obligations for the state. An indigene, on the other hand, is one who claims to be the son of the soil, a recognized indigene of a given space, while a non-indigene or settler is a stranger, a migrant, who does not have rights of an indigene. Indigeneship is an attachment to an ancestral tribal home, which happens to be the origin of one's being within a given geographical nation, national, regional, or even local demarcation. In places where one does not even feel that attachment, there are strong unseen forces that make it impulsive, in most cases, to identify with such a place, defining even some elements of time. In some instances, one is often reminded of her or its roots by others who do not feel inclined to sharing their indigenship with her or him, especially when cost and gains are concerned. At such instances, one is reminded of her, his abode of that locality, and settlership of that same place. Two in one. You're an abode, you stay here, you know, you have been here for a long time, but yet you are a settler. Moreover, indigeneship is a status of being an indigene or a native. An indigene is an indigenous person who was born in a particular place. It is synonymous with aborigine or native. A native is a person born in a specified place or associated with a place by birth, whether consequently reside there or not. An aborigine is the original by being in place from earliest time. With this notion, an indigene does not mean someone grew from the ground in a particular place or dropped into that place from heaven, but it implies that he did an earlier, if not an earliest, migration to that place. Thus, everyone is an immigrant into the place she or he is claiming is indigenous, if critically and objectively traced. So the emphasis of this paragraph is that an indigene does not jump from heaven and he did not grow from the ground. He also came from somewhere, but he came earlier or earliest before others. That is why I can claim to be an indigene of that place. Nexus is a connection or link between things, persons, or events, especially that is or is part of a chain of causation. Nexus is a connection or series of connections linking two or more things together. In this presentation, nexus is to establish if there's a linkage or not between migration, indigeneship, and citizenship in Nigeria. Then theoretical framework. The Marxian theory serves as the theoretical framework of this presentation, particularly its dialectical and historical materialism. Karl Marx's theory about society, economics, and politics is collectively known as Marxism. It holds that human society progressed through class struggle. That is, a conflict between an ownership class that controls production and a dispossessed labor class that provides labor for production. Marx believed that states were run on behalf of the ruling class and in their interests while presenting it as the common interest of all. Karl Marx predicted, like previous socio-economic systems, capitalism produced internal tensions, which will lead to its destruction and replacement by a system which he said socialism. We are still waiting for prediction of Karl Marx, whereby he said capitalism will fail and socialism will come. We are still waiting for it. Even with the defunct USSR, there's a kind of celebration that the competition between the two words, capitalism and socialism, has ended and it has become unipolar. Although later we realized that there's what we call a class of civilization. If capitalism is no more, socialism is no more, or communism, and it's only capitalism is ruling the world. But yet, that's what we call in the political science class, a class of civilization. Marxism is built on a materialistic understanding of societal development, taking as its starting point the necessary economic activities required to satisfy the material needs of human society. The form of economic organization or mode of production is understood to give rise or or at least directly influences most of other social phenomena, including social relations, political and legal systems, morality and ideology. Thus, the economic system and social relations are called a base or a structure, but as forces of production, most notably technology, improve, existing forms of social organization become inefficient and stifle further progress. This inefficiency manifests themselves as social contradiction in the form of class struggle. The dialectical materialism gives primacy to material conditions, particularly economic factors, in the explanation of other aspects of life, either political or otherwise. This is because economic need is man's fundamental need. And as economic need is the primary need of man, so also economic activity is man's primacy activity. It's man's primary activity. That is, the premise of work, economic productivity, is the corollary of the primacy of economic need. In short, man must eat to live, but man must work in order to eat. I repeat, man must eat to live, but man must work in order to live. In other perspective, man must not live by bread alone, but it is more fundamental that man cannot live without bread. I repeat, man must not live by bread alone, but it's more fundamental that man cannot live without bread. The historical materialism, on the other hand, analyzes the underlying causes of social development and change in the collective ways humans make their living. All constituent features of a society, social class, political pyramid, ideologies, stem from economic activities. An idea often conveyed with the metaphor of the base and the superstructure. The base and the superstructure metaphor explains that the totality of social relations in and by which humans produce and reproduce their social existence forms a society's economic base. From this base rises a superstructure of political and legal institutions, that is the ruling class. The base corresponds to the social consciousness, politics, religion, philosophy, etc., and it conditions the supernatural and the dominant ideology. A conflict between the development of material productive forces and the relation of production provokes social revolutions. Thus, the resultant change to the economic base will lead to the transformation of the superstructure. I think it's in the common parlance in Nigeria. They will say we cannot prove to be a saint or a man of God until you have economic power. When you have economic power, strong economic power, we will know how saintful you are. At first, the base gives rise to the superstructure and remains the foundation of a form of social organization. Hence, the formal social organization can act against both parts of the base and superstructure, whose relationship is not unilateral, but dialectic, namely, a relationship driven by conflicts and contradiction. Thus, the history of all existing society is the history of class struggles between the freeman and slave, patrician and plebeian, the lord and the serf, guide masters and the journeyman in a word, oppressor and the oppressed, stood in constant opposition to one another, carried on uninterrupted, now hidden sometimes, now open fight sometimes, a fight that each time ended either in a revolutionary constitution of society at large or in the common ruin of the contending classes. The implication of adopting Marxian theory as the theoretical framework of this presentation is that we need to give particular attention to economic structure of Nigeria as a point of departure in the study of the nexus in our immigration, our citizenship, and indigenship. This is necessary because an understanding of what material assets and constraints of Nigeria are, how she produces goods to meet our material needs, how the goods are distributed, and what types of social relations arise from the organization of production. Therefore, a platform is set for the understanding of the workings of other aspects of the country, particularly the migration pattern, citizenship pattern, and indigenship pattern, which is the concern of this current presentation. In other words, the mono-economic base of the country of Nigeria, coupled with its rentier mentality, with no manufacturing effort but consumption of largely imported products without limits, could serve as an explanation of the strong and serious struggle to outwit one another through the mantra of indigent and non-indigent perception in place of citizenship, with migration being neutralized in order to exclude one another from the continually dwindling economic opportunities. Thus, the lack of nexus between indigent citizenship and migration status in Nigeria is more or less a reflection of the struggle for economic power through political power by the different tribal and religious entities that compose the country. This is because in private endeavors, the issue of indigent versus settler, citizen versus indigent, migrant versus immigrant do not exist, or not important, or not even considered at all. You have your car broke down. You will not look for the tribal and religious mark of the mechanic who will repair for you. Your own is just you find your car repaired. In private things, in private endeavors, issue of indigenship, citizenship, and migration is downplayed. You go to market, you want to buy beans or rice, you will not be asking of the tribal mark and the tone of the person selling it. Yours is to buy and move and go and solve your problem. Now let's go to the nexus. Let's establish, are there nexus between migration, indigenship, and citizenship? The 2006 population and housing census revealed that more than 10% of Nigerians are lifetime migrants or live in states other than their state of birth. The Internal Migration Survey conducted by the National Population Commission in 2010 revealed that 23% of the sample population of Nigerians are internal migrants, having changed residence within 10 years, and 2% are return migrants. This shows that a large number of Nigerian population is on the move internally As I'm speaking with you, some people are planning to move out of their village and place of birth within Nigeria. These migratory flows are mostly influenced by a desire for better economic prospects and social facilities. They don't like it. If some people get economic opportunity in their village, they will not move out. But because the economic opportunities are not there, they have to move. The survey indicated that about 60% of internal migrants reside in urban areas, which obviously, with obvious consequences on socio-economic infrastructure in the urban areas. And again, in return, it makes the villages to be empty, no ideas, nothing to develop it, no any serious activities going on in the village because of the migration of people out of the village to the open. Unequivocally, studies over the years have shown that indigenship versus citizenship controversy in Nigeria is rooted in the nebulous constitutional provisions and interpretations and the discriminatory tendencies of self-centered elites politics practiced in the country, elitist politics practiced in the country with their crude accumulation of wealth mentality. Crude accumulation. You accumulate wealth that you need. By the time you are accumulating what you don't need, it's crude. It's barbaric. First, the political use of and misuse of indigenship and citizenship in Nigeria has brought about great confusion in identifying a Nigerian citizen and the building of a viable Nigerian state. For instance, a Nigerian citizen may be excluded or even denied certain rights or privileges in the country due to her or his indigenship. And this indigenship is a parental geology. Thus, Nigerians who have their ethnic genealogy elsewhere, even if they were born in a particular place or lived all their lives there, are still regarded as settlers in their place of birth and abode. It is an undisputable fact that millions of Nigerians find themselves living in places, communities, or ethnic groups that are different from that of their parents. This situation is not peculiar to any particular place or ethnic group because there are far northern Nigerians, indigenes, who lived all their lives in the east or west or even central Nigeria. Also, there are southern Nigerians who lived all their lives in different parts of the northern Nigeria, and either of them is regarded as settlers in their place of abode, and consequently not indigene in those parts of Nigeria, their country. In fact, different ethnic groups in Nigeria have conceived and adopted different attitudes to what connotes citizenship in the country, which makes it difficult or even impossible to have a Nigerian citizen, but different indigene of various communities with different primordial mentalities and sentiments. Fundamentally, in Nigeria, there are no Nigerian citizens, but indigenes of various communities. In the Nigerian society, indigene could be seen as one whose lineage is traced to a specific place or community, and as well as being recognized by others as one of the legitimate owners of the place. In fact, place of birth, registration, or naturalization, as provided for in the Constitution, can only guarantee citizenship to Nigeria or in Nigeria in theory, but in practice, they do not actually offer someone the status of an indigene, which is more important than citizenship, even by constitutional provision. It is not surprise that many communities where people have migrated or settled for more than 3 decades in Nigeria, the people are either addressed as settlers, and they are persistently discriminated against on rights and privileges due to an indigene. The Nigerian Constitution does not present a clear solution to the citizenship question. Rather, it has only succeeded in modeling up the concept of citizenship with indigenship, and at the end, created an indigenous Nigeria to a community with no Nigerian citizen. Nigerian Constitution has created an indigenous Nigeria to a community with no Nigerian citizen. In other words, it created Nigerians with indigenous mentality without Nigeria mentality. To ensure that the candidate in Nigeria, to ensure that candidates for appointments, political office, employment, and admission are bona fide indigene of a state they profess to come from. All states have what we call indigene forms, not citizenship 4, as proof of indigeneship of a state. Before you can get employment, go to school. These forms are administered at local government level. Take note. They are administered at local government level, not even at state level, for which the names and tribes of one's parents are to be filled, if not religion. And one's village head, take note, one's village head or ward head is to append the signature, affirming that one is a bona fide indigene of that locality, not chairman of the local government. For instance, let's look at the Constitution, Chapter 3, Sections 25 to 27, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, dwell extensively on Nigerian citizens as follows. 25 says, the following persons are citizens of Nigeria by birth. Because literally, if they say by birth you are a citizen, which means you are born there, you are a citizen. But in Nigeria, there's a clause. Every person born before the date of independence, either of whose parents or any of whose grandparents belonged to a community indigenous to Nigeria, provided that a person shall not become a citizen of Nigeria by virtue of this section if either of his parents nor any of his grandparents was born in Nigeria. So are you getting it? For you to even be qualified as a citizen by birth in Nigeria, it must be either your parent or grandparent is born in that place. Even if you are born somewhere, you will come back and say you are a citizen by birth, as far as your parents or grandparents are born in that particular place. Every person born in Nigeria after date of independence, either of whose parents or any of whose grandparents, is a citizen of Nigeria. And every person born outside Nigeria, either of whose parents is a citizen of Nigeria. In this section, the date of independence means 1st October 1960. Subject to the provision, section 26(1), subsection 1. Subject to the provision of the section 28 of this Constitution, a person who will be registered as a citizen of Nigeria if the president is satisfied. That is citizenship by registration. Is a person of good character. He has shown a clear intention of desire to be domiciled in Nigeria, and he has taken oath of allegiance prescribed in the 7th schedule of this Constitution. Then the provision of this section shall apply to any woman who is or has been married to a citizen in Nigeria. See another controversial thing in our Constitution. It's provided that if you're a woman and you can, before you can now be indigent of a place that you are married to, you have to go and do registration. But we have seen cases whereby the indigent of those states are still denied. Even they speak the same language and worship the same God. They will tell you, say, you come here to marry us. You are not from here. Every person, you are not an indigent of this place. Every person of full age and capacity born outside Nigeria, any of whose grandparent is a citizen of Nigeria. So he's talking about citizenship by nationalization. Subject to provision of section 28 of this Constitution, any person is qualified in accordance with provision of this section may apply to the president to grant certificate of naturalization. And look at the conditions. No person should be qualified to apply for the grant of certificate of naturalization unless he satisfies the president that is a person of full age, is a person of good character, he has shown a clear intention of his desire to domicile in Nigeria, is in the opinion of the governor of the state where he is or he proposes to be resident, acceptable to the local community. Take note, before you can naturalize, you must be acceptable to the local community, in which is to live permanently and has been assimilated into the way of life of Nigeria in that part of the federation. It's a person who has made or is capable of making useful contributions to the advancement, progress, and well-being of Nigeria. He has taken oath of allegiance. He has also immediately preceded the date of his application. Either he has resided in Nigeria for 15 years or he's continued to reside in Nigeria for 20 years, but the last 12 months he was in Nigeria. When you count out of the 20 years, 15 years of it he must have resided. From the above constitutional provisions, my dear audience, it is critically clear that citizenship by birth, by registration, and by naturalization, as is stated in Nigerian Constitution, is being subsumed into indigeneship. That is, in Nigeria, indigenship has a bigger weight than citizenship, either by birth, either by registration, either by naturalization. Indigenous is bigger than all those things. So let me conclude. Concluding remarks. It is noted from the foregoing discussion, because my director said I cannot spend more than 1 hour. So in concluding remarks, it is noted from the foregoing discussion that in Nigeria, there is no nexus between migration, citizenship, and indigenous. This is because no matter how long one stays in a community in Nigeria, as in Nigeria, she or he cannot claim the rights enjoyed in that community, even if she is born or he is born in that place. Fundamentally, citizenship is not recognized in Nigeria, but indigenship. And this practice of indigenship has been in existence since the time of Nigerian creation in 1914 amalgamation, and has become a culture which dies hard, if it will ever die at all. However, the process of replacing indigenship with citizenship could be set in motion through constitutional provision by either legalizing a lingua franca or placing strong emphasis on the country's official language, English. In other words, in every public place, English should be used, should be made as a language of communication as truly as the official language. I think if you go to Rwanda after the war, the Tutsi and the Hutu, they've come back to their senses. If you go to Rwanda and ask them, are you an Hutu or a Tutsi? He will tell you, say, I'm an Rwanda. He will never tell you, say it. But in Nigeria, some of our heads will tell you, say, they are tribe first before being in Nigeria. And those are the people that are making Nigeria to be still complex the way it is. Because people are looking onto them. They will tell you, say, I'm a native of my place before I become Nigerian. But go to Rwanda for excursion. I think our governors, they went there the other time for excursion, for some workshop. And they were marveled by the things they saw. In that Rwanda has transformed. The demarcation that is between them is no more the issue. They see themselves as citizens, Rwandese, not as Tutsi or Hutu again. This is because it will be difficult, if not possible, if not impossible. Why I'm saying that, why do we need to adopt a lingua franca, which is our official language, which is English? This is because it will be difficult, if not impossible, to adopt an indigenous language as a lingua franca for the country at this stage of our existence. Due to distrust, we distrust ourselves. We do not trust ourselves. Among the various ethnic groups in the country, particularly the major ethnic groups, that is, there seems not to be an indigenous language that can be adopted in the country, that other tribes will support and not protest against. And to create a woven of various indigenous language, like Wazobia. When we were young, we were hearing people say, let's create a language. As a lingua franca at this stage of the country's existence, may be difficult, if not impossible. In the interim, every Nigerian should have it at the back of their mind, of his or her mind, that Nigerian constitution and Nigerians do not recognize Nigerian citizens, but indigenous of the various communities. Even in the face of series of migration and settlement, migration does not affect our mentality. That if you migrate, you become citizen. No. Over the migration and the settlement for years, and even back, we still maintain that indigenship thing. Therefore, one should try to be assimilated into the ways of life of a place he wants to claim his indigenship, and not agitate for indigenship of a place that it cannot be assimilated into its culture, and not annoyed when denied an indigenship of a place that it cannot be assimilated into its culture. Also, there could be a little flexibility in the practice of indigenship, so that those that can make meaningful contribution to the development of a place, like we saw in the constitution under naturalization, if you can make a meaningful contribution to the development of a place and are interested to be indigenized, or have no place other than their place of abode, but could not be assimilated into the culture, will be granted conditional indigenship. Why I'm saying this is that we see some people, they are attached too much to where they were born or where their parents were born. So wherever they are settling, wherever they are harbored, even they are born there, they'll be telling you that, no, this is not our place now. We came from somewhere by himself. If you buy a new car, he will take you to where the grandfather or the father was born and take plate number, because he ate where he was born here and where he settles. That's why we're emphasizing of those who are ready and want to contribute. Even some people, when they want to build house, they prefer to go to their native community to go and build house there. They will not build good house where they are living to show that they are not ready to identify. But if people want to identify, then they can be accommodated and so on and so forth. Even some people, if they die in a place where they were born and it's not their grandfather or native, they will tell you, say, my dead body will never sleep in a strange land. So that's why he was born there. He grew up there. He still believes that that place is still strange. So that's why I use the word that those who are ready. So let me make a final comment, and it's about what is generally referred to as intellectual property. This implies knowledge or knowledgeable people in a given society. From the beginning of what could be regarded as an independent Nigeria in 1960, and particularly from the late 1980s, we Nigerians seem not to appreciate intellectual property. We seem not to regard knowledgeable people in our midst. But importantly, it's our foremost duty to protect our intellectual property. If not, we are going nowhere as a nation state. For instance, it is absurd for us to believe that the knowledgeable people among us who left for other countries or other places.
All right, okay. Since I'm one of the hosts, Blessing, you are one of the hosts. Can you take over? Go to the next level.
Okay.
Okay, I want to really thank our presenter for today, that even though he didn't have to share his, he didn't have words to share his presentation, the slides, he was very audible, and I'm sure the little I heard, I know that it was clear and good, and I believe that those who had a better network than me must have also heard it loud and clear. He has really touched on this topic passionately, and it is now time for him to listen while we make comments and ask questions, and after the questions, then he will now respond to everybody's comments / questions. So please, sir, you need just to get your paper and biro ready to note what people are saying so that you respond at the end. And I can see that our Professor Abdallah's hand is already up, but I just want to say two things that I felt very passionate about as he was talking, is this issue of indigeneship and citizenship, very germane, that yes, indigeneship is what we in Nigeria and not citizenship. Now, this is the topic as now in Nigeria, because we are looking at internal migration in the in Nigeria right now as a big topic, where all the migration agents are looking at this, and it is hard to make it citizenship and not indigenship. If we can just say, stop asking about local government and your tribe, Nigeria, and that's what you put in your form, and you're a citizen. Now it's now your choice if you would want to say, oh, this is my tribe. It is not going to be a condition anymore. And how can we achieve this? So I want the presenter to notice, he must need to encourage us and tell us how we can achieve citizenship and not indigenship. What can be done? I mean, practical experience now, not paperwork. We want to look at that. And then, of course, he mentioned language barrier, which I know is a big issue. Of course, if you say, me, I want you to also put something in my language, you call us minor, and we become majority that time, we become many. So we now say outside Igbo and Yoruba, Wazobia. Only that will not work, because the others, when you put them together, they will also form a good body that can be formidable. That's my own thought. Thank you very much. So on this note, I want to call on Professor Abdallah to make his comments. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Director, for this. And I think it is a topic that is very close to my heart. I like it. My only observation is that he seemed to focus attention too much on theoretical Marxist ideology rather than providing us with critical data. I understand he has a Marxist leaning because he's in political science and he was looking at it from political science perspective. But in a presentation such as this, all those conceptual theoretical phrases are best shifted to the main paper itself. So you know the actual paper itself, rather which you present to the journal or to the book for whatever. But in a public presentation that you have only 20 minutes and people harassing you to hurry up, and with all this internet breaking off and things, I think the main argument should be just simply placed rather than going through the entire paper with all theoretical, conceptual research questions and all that, which is what most people have been doing, which I think is not really proper way to do it. I would have expected a PowerPoint of the key arguments with illustrations. It's not enough to just simply say, to pull out definitions of citizenship, indigenship from documents. We need to see how does this feed into social dynamics of society. For instance, in Lagos currently, there are arguments about who founded Lagos. Was it the Yoruba or was it the Bini? The Oba of Benin stated that the Bini people founded Lagos. And Pemi Kayode and all the others say no, the Lagos was founded by Yoruba. This is an example of a dynamism between citizenship, indigenship, ownership, and statehood. I would have loved Kamal to have at least draw our attention to this particular nexus, because that's what he calls it, nexus, so that we can understand the whole concept much more clearly. In Plateau State, there was a Lebanese who actually seemed to have indicated his interest to become a senator. And it was only later that he came out and said, no, he doesn't want to be a senator. But he was born there, he lived there, and he has done so much for people there that they don't see him as Lebanese. They see him as somebody from Plateau, Bajasi. That's what they call them in Hausa language, Bajasi. That is somebody from Jos. So to them, he's not a Lebanese, he's not a foreigner. He has already subsumed because he has a Nigerian citizen. Even though he had a white skin, white wife, and white children, but he still identifies as a Nigerian to such an extent that people around him felt he could become a senator. And as being a senator means you have to be a Nigerian. The same thing in Jigawa State, Rurnunkudu in Jigawa State. Abbas Ajaik Abdul Jalil was born in Rurnunkudu from Lebanese parents. And right now he has Nigeria Lebanese hospital in Kano. He was born there over 60 years ago. And his parents have been in that area for over 100 years. And he came out to become a member of the House of Reps in Jigawa State. So where is the dividing line between identity, nationhood, citizenship, and indigeneity? I would have loved to see examples that he can pull out and give. When I finished secondary school and we started College of Advanced Studies in Kano, about 5 Yoruba, real Yoruba, I mean not even Muslim Yoruba, Christian Yoruba, were awarded Kano State scholarships. And the reason they were awarded Kano State scholarship because they were born there, they lived there, their parents worked there. So at that time, that was in the 70s, nobody was saying, you are from this, you are from that. Everybody was looking at you as a human being who lived in that particular environment. I would have loved to see that. People from Edo settled in Kano a very, very long time ago, and they identify themselves as Kanawa. One of them recently married an American woman. He met her online, they got married, and so now he's in the United States. He has even joined the American Army as a soldier or something like that. And he was from Kano, from Panchekara area in Kano. But his parents were from Edo, Benin. So we have all these examples of indigeneity, citizenship, ownership, identification with a particular area that makes a person an indigenous of the area. I will have loved Professor Kamal to give us examples of this translocational indigeneity. Somebody from Lagos coming to Kano claiming he's from Kano. Somebody from Benin coming to Kano claiming he's from Kano. And Kano absorbs all of them. There are many, many, many people, even the people from inside the heart of the city. Many of them identified as their parents coming from somewhere. But they don't go back to their ancestral origins. As far as they are concerned, they are Kanawa. That's why I said I have a paper on this, about how Kano absorbs people, which I wanted to present, but not be published if I'm given the opportunity. Because I wanted to show that there is a migration from below, that the migration is not always about people from Nigeria going to US or UK or Canada and then getting stuck there. No, there are people who have migrated from the Middle East, from North Africa to Nigeria, and they claim ownership of the land, and nobody was worried about that. That is the counter-flow migration that we have never been exposed to. I have the data, and I even presented it somewhere, and I can represent it here again. But the point I wanted to make with Kamal is that, please, in future, give us examples of this nexus. Give us an example of this dynamism. Give us examples so that we can now see whether Marx was right or Marx was wrong. Because a lot of all these migrations have nothing to do with power, hegemony, and control. It's about economy. People wanted to live in a better place. They wanted to have something good. Nigerians have migrated to Poland. I know quite a few of them who are now part of the Polish parliament. Okay? Nigerians have migrated to Canada. About 2 of them are my friends, and they have now established businesses over there. But they don't think themselves as Canadians. They always think themselves as Nigerians. But on the other hand, when people move to Kano, they don't think of themselves as coming from as the other. They think themselves as Kanawa. They speak the language, probably even married locally, and they are still there. So I think it's a very interesting presentation, because it gives us an opportunity to talk about this, to reflect on it, and then to begin to ask ourselves, where is the specific gravity of our identity? Do we accept the location of where we come from? Because all of us are migrants. All of us come from somewhere else. To what extent do we accept the identity of the places that we are and claim ownership and indigenship of that particular place, and then make effective contribution to the development of that area, regardless of our ancestral roots? I think this is the kind of thing that Kamal ought to have, looked at as a political scientist, rather than the Marxist rhetorics and the theoretical underpinnings of a policy. Thank you very much, Kamal. Well done.
You, thank you. Well, he's trying to join us back. Internet has since thrown him out. But since we are recording this, he will surely get all the comments. So over to you. I can see Professor Oyebode there. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. My contribution has to align with what Professor Abdallah said, and especially historicizing this kind of a topic. You can see that this issue of discrimination, you are indigenous or not, is probably what we inherited from colonialism. Because before the arrival of colonial masters, people just go and settle anywhere they find themselves. And that is why, like he said, in Lagos, you can see different households or different migrants having stable, or where they can call their homes now. In Lagos, you can get the Nope, you can get the Tapa people who are now considered as indigenes of Lagos State. Let me use Ibadan for example. Ibadan is also a place where people come from different ethnicity or ethnic groups. You can get Ile Tapa in Ibadan. You can get Ile Igala in Ibadan. And all these people today are considered as indigenes of Ibadan, because they can have their Magaji, they can even rise to the position of Olubadan. In my own case, for instance, though we migrated from a subgroup in Yoruba land, which is Igesa land. I was joking with my staff when this thing was going on, that you see, today people consider me as a Ibadan man, but our forefathers migrated from Igesa land. So, and I was telling them, I'm also Igesa. I can trace our house in Igesa today and say my parents migrated from here. But today, even I can become Olubadan of Ibadan. This was the situation before the Europeans came and sold this idea of indigeneship to us, and we now hold on to it as instrument for getting political and economic power, like the presenter said. So what I'm just saying is that in this kind of debate, we must try to historicize, see where we went wrong, what brought this idea. Because I know that in Ibadan, if you have a parcel of land, you have a house, you have where you can call your compound, up till the year 1940, you are still considered as an Ibadan man. But when this dichotomy came, people who came to Ibadan after 1940 were no longer allowed to consider themselves as Ibadan indigenes because they cannot point to any particular parcel of land that they settled on when they came. So I think I've just said that we should add historical perspective to this kind of debate so that we can know where we went wrong and whether it is possible to go back to that era where people just come and once they have settled, they are considered as indigenous. Thank you. Thank you. I've finished my contribution, moderator. In a meeting.
Okay, go ahead. Any other? Yeah. Any other person wanting to ask questions? No. Yemisi Ogulela.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Over to you.
Sir. Yes, sir. I want to align my own thoughts to what our Professor Abdallah just mentioned while he was speaking. Mine is a question, and at the same time, I want to tell you that this thing has been agitating my mind for long. Professor Abdallah mentioned that in Kano, there are many people who came in from other places and they were absorbed into the Kano society. On my own side, I want to ask, is it easier for us to accept people who migrated internationally and settled in Kano or some other parts of Nigeria than accepting people who migrated internally within Nigeria and settled in another part of Nigeria? That's the question I want to answer. Thank you.
The answer is simple, really. I wish I had time to share. I wish I had time to share the other paper that I presented.
Okay,
those who migrated internationally often do so from the position of a particular series of advantages. Number one,
use your phone to join.
Hello. Number one.
Yes, sir.
They came wealthy.
Okay.
My data showed that these people came already wealthy. They were businessmen, they were merchants, and they came with a lot of money and goods, foreign goods. That is like salt, foreign goods that are not easily available, and therefore they created instant market. Number two, they kept to themselves, and they were law-abiding. And by law-abiding, I mean they integrated effectively with the community in the sense that they were also Muslims. They were law-abiding. They kept themselves to themselves. In fact, for many years, up to now, they were not intermarrying with the local residents. They were not.
But recently,
when the left, even until recently, when the Yemeni were imported by the British from Yemen to Kano in order to be agents for purchase of goat skins. They needed to get married, but they don't want to marry local citizens. So they were asking for women to be imported, mail order brides directly from Yemen. But when that became very difficult because there was no aircraft at that time, they can only come by a ship from Yemen to Lagos, from Lagos overland to Kano, it takes months. The latter arrivals from Yemen started marrying local residents, but those local residents must be light-skinned like them.
Okay.
So the Fulani became their main preferred wives to marry.
Yeah.
So the men marry African women that are light-skinned, look beautiful, just like the typical archetypical Fulani, not knowing that there are 9 species of Fulani. And one of the species is extremely dark, like the Senegalese people. But they prefer the light-skinned ones, and they marry those so that they can maintain their racial purity. Up till now, there is this division. Nobody cares. Now, the immigrants from other parts of Nigeria, for instance, find it difficult to integrate in Kano. Not that people reject them, but they find it difficult to integrate for many reasons. Number one, they really don't bring any added value, unlike the foreigners. They're looking for jobs, and they're looking for things for where to live. Number two, which is most critical, they were mainly Christians. And in about 1910 or so, the British government, fearing that there might be a riot, denied non-Muslims, African non-Muslim, from living inside the city of Kano, which, as you probably know, is walled. So
Yes,
no
sir.
Christian can live within the walls. Yeah, within the walls of Kano city. They were prevented from doing that. So they were taken to an outskirts of Kano. It's a new town, and this new town is called Sabangali.
Sabo. Yes, sir.
And that's exactly, yeah, Sabangali. And that is why wherever the Hausa people live, that place is also called Sabo, like Sabo Ibadan. Mainly the settlement of Hausa people, and Zango. Even in Ghana, there is Zango, and that is the settlement for Hausa people. So the idea is to separate them, not necessarily to let them to integrate, but because they have different mindsets, they have different religion, they don't have anything to bring to, they have no added value. Unlike the Jordanian, Syrians, Yemeni, Arabs that came in with a lot of foreign exchange, foreign currency. Even now, in 2023, when somebody wants to settle, and this person has a lot of money, you receive him with open arms. But when somebody wants to settle and he wants to come in with his own ideas that are different from your own, you begin to say, this one now, we don't want this kind of person. But when you go to a mosque to pray, and you see the person who is different from you also praying, you accept him. When you go to the church to pray, and you see somebody different from you also praying in the church, you accept them. But when the person, like I'm a Muslim, so if I go to another place, like maybe Anambra, where there are very few Muslims, it will take a while for me to be accepted as an indigent of that place, no matter how many years I've stayed. That is why the Hausa communities, wherever they are in the East and the West, keep themselves to their communities, just like the Southern communities keep to themselves when they come up to the North. But the foreigners integrate effectively because of religion,
and economic power. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because of their economic power. They had the money, they integrated with the religion. And there is also something exotic, very exotic about a white person living close to you. That's exactly what happened in Niger Republic. The French did not separate themselves from the African population. They integrated.
Assimilation.
And up to now, yeah, they assimilated them. I'm up to now, when you go to Niger Republic, people are proud to eat French food. Okay, even the bread, the Nigerian bread is massive, this huge bread. You can even eat it without anything. Just carry water, Gary, and you can chop that bread. But not in Niger. You go to Niger, it's a very long bread called baguette.
Yes.
When you don't eat it quickly, it becomes dry, and you can't chop it. In fact, I was eating it while you people were talking. I just lit up my camera. You only eat that bread with a beautiful soup and butter. They won't get money for butter now. That butter is about 3,000 naira. And you have a bread that you cannot keep for more than 1 day. In fact, for more than 2 hours, the thing go dry.
Yes.
How you go do? But the bread in Nigeria, heavy duty, solid. Okay? 2 days, it will be there. With Gary, it will go well. Even if they coke, bread, coke, you are okay. You see the problem? So this concept of nationhood, indigeneity, acceptability, and so on and so forth, I think ought to have been highlighted by Professor Kamal's paper to illustrate all those Marxist policies he was given.
And probably, sir, maybe
so thank you very much. I hope I've answered that question, even though I'm not the presenter.
Yes, sir, you have answered me. I want to say that those factors, economic factor, religious, the factor of religion and so on, yes, play a part in all these issues of indigenization and whatever. Thank you very much, sir. You remain as intellectual as ever. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's kind of you. Very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm very funny.
I'm happy that our professor is the moderator today. I'm very happy because this is a golden opportunity which we would not have had, but internet has given us the chance to have a good moderator today. Thank you, sir, for those responses. And I want to say, up till now, the presenter, it's like the internet just allowed him to speak and go away. He said he can't join, and I don't know what to do. I said, come through WhatsApp, come through phone, but I don't know, he's not coming through any of this.
Well, at least we can see him physically.
Okay, I think he's back now. He has come. He's back now. And he has missed most of the questions. Professor Kamal, welcome back. Can you hear us?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, so he's back. I was just telling them we can't hear you. So Prof has been doing your work. In fact, he's a wonderful co-presenter today. And we have just appreciated him. He has been able to answer all the queries from Professor Ogunlela, so we are happy. But then Professor Ogunlade also spoke, and I asked a question initially, the way forward about this indigenization and citizenship that we are not, well, Prof has been able to tell us that some people have been able to key into it well while you were not there. But I think personally, our problem is in internal migration, not external, not people from any other country coming in, but Nigeria to Nigeria. For those of us who were not brought up in our own state, for example, I grew up in the West, and I speak the language well, and I can tell all the proverbs in the language. If they hear my name, the love sinks down immediately. Because before I start talking, when I'm talking, they assume, everybody assumes this must be a Yoruba lady. And by the time they hear the name, the love is over almost immediately. Only a few just manage to go on. And I have lived there for nearly all my life. So what is the problem? It is that problem that is affecting everything about not being able to have this perfect indigenization, and that we are having this problem. And we are saying, can Nigeria look at it and make everything concerning tribe and all those things away from the policy and talk about citizenship? Because if I live 10 years in America or UK, I'm a citizen, and nobody discriminates. I can stay anywhere and I can feel and be able to do everything that somebody who is born there, does. But here, it's not quite the same. Even to be the head of a place, in the north, I was told, they will tell you, you cannot go beyond this level. Somebody who is from that north, called north, or from that place will be the one that is the head. And it may be happening in my own state too, Edo State. It may be happening in the West. So these are some things that we need to see. What voice can the academia have to make corrections? Because that is the focus of today, of what I mean today. This current discourse is ongoing in the migration panel. Thank you, sir. So maybe you start to ask.
Director, there is something you need to understand. This issue of son of the soil and barriers to ownership of, for instance, property, positions, and so on, is not peculiar to Nigeria. My daughter right now lives in UAE, United Arab Emirates. And in UAE, you can't own a house, no matter how rich you are. You lease the house from an Emirati. So all the papers will be in his name, not in your name. But you can now, when people started complaining and they saw that their economy might decline and they want Western money to come in, they now created a facility whereby you can buy a plot in an estate. You can buy a plot in an estate. So those estates have been created specifically for non-indigenous. But if you don't want to live in an estate and you want to buy a house, you can do that. But that house has to be leased. Even though you paid for it, it's your own. But all the papers and the names and everybody will be in the name of an Emirati. You cannot also marry an Emirati until you go through an extremely rigorous process. So every society, every culture has its own barriers to protect itself. And I think this is what we really need to understand at the core fundamental issues of migration. United States, for instance, and Canada are seeking for migrants. They want people to come. So nobody is going to start talking to you, oh, you are from Edo, oh, you are from this. Nobody cares. All they want are human beings. They value you as a human being because those countries were based on migration. They were created by migration. Of course, there is this issue of racial discrimination between white people and black people and so on. There is that. But that discrimination will always be there. If you take them and put them in Nigeria, they will also have this racial distribution because you are white and black. I mean, even among ourselves here in Nigeria, we discriminate against people with darker skins. In House of folklore, there is this saying: wankan baki asarar ruwa. That is the bathing of a deeply dark-skinned person is a waste of water. Because in yayi ma kaman bai yi ba. But even if he bathed, it looks like he has not bathed. He's still looking dirty because he's black. Here in Hausa culture, a woman that is light skinned with a long hair and long nose is preferred over a short, plumpy, dark skinned woman. Nobody will, it will take a long time for her to find a husband, unless he's like her also. But if you look at the wives of all the Hausa senators, reps, ministers, take a look at them. You see them, they are light skinned, beautiful, because they have to select them. Here again, people who are light skinned don't go into keke napep. You go through 1,000 keke napep drivers, you won't see a light skinned person. They're all skinned. So we have this inherent discrimination against skin color. Africa, in Nigeria. So it is very, very important to understand that race dynamics are all over the world. So if you forget about the race and focus about the threat to survival. In the United States, when Black people move to a particular community that is predominantly white, they are discriminated against, not because they are Black, but because they believe that Black people will bring bad things. They will bring drugs, they will bring crime, and they bring all sorts of things. And here in our communities here, we also have the same thing. The moment somebody comes in who is different from you, you begin to come up with all sorts of stereotypes about his tribe, about his religion, about his culture, and so on. And these barriers are there. And I'm telling you, they're not going to go away until we change our behavior. Why is it that Nigerians are prevented from entering UAE? Unless you are part of the presidential delegation, 1,000 people going for a conference. You know, I don't know why they didn't take me along. They should have created a facility for former VCs, but they didn't. You know, so they go over there on official delegation, 1,000 people. Why is it that even countries like Ethiopia are denying Nigerians? Go through the list of countries that prevented Nigerians from coming, because Nigerians have been stereotyped as drug addicts, as criminals, as drug couriers, as cheaters, Yahoo, and so on. Nothing good. The only place that accepts Nigerians fairly well is Qatar. Okay, Qatar accept Nigerians because they work as security agents, they call, and so on and so forth. So if there's a bullet coming around, let it hit a black man and kill him. No Allah. So you take them as security. You don't want a white Arab to be killed by a bullet. So they will take you as a security guard in case there's somebody is shooting a hand. Oh yeah, kill him. No Allah, just get another one. There are millions of them in Nigeria wanting to come over. So I think the population dynamics have to take into consideration a series of factors: economy, religion, culture, identity, and so on, and the barriers that are created when people come in. This is what happened in Germany. When Germany was being rebuilt, they went to Istanbul, they went to Turkey and imported Turks, promising to give them citizenship after they finish rebuilding Germany. After they finished, they said, oh yeah, let's take you back. They said, oh no, we're not going back, we are Germans, we're staying here. So we have this, I think Kamal could look at the Turkish-German social culture and how it evolved. But now when you go to Germany, any city in Germany, I've gone to Germany many times, there are Turkish areas. The same thing with the Chinese. I mean, there is no way they can accept you in China as a Chinese person, because being Chinese has a cultural identity to it. That is why when you go to San Francisco, you have Chinatown, okay? When you go to England, you have Little China. All over the world, places where they feel comfortable. So it's only Nigeria, director, where people are saying, hey, you come from where? We come from where? I don't want to be close to you. Even the Chinese themselves practice that. The Arabs practice that. Americans and the Canadians don't practice that simply because they themselves were immigrants. Finally, in Germany, currently, if you're a black man, no matter how ugly you are, no matter how whatever you are, they welcome you. You know why? Because German women like black people.
Okay.
And the Germans are now in danger of having black marrying each other. So black people go there, they marry German women, have beautiful German children, and they get German citizenship. And they don't care whether the black man stays or not, so long as he has children, the children that they want. Because they are not given birth, because they are not getting married. Even when they are playing around, they are not getting children. But with a black man, very strong, very powerful, powerhouse. You come in, pam, 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 pew, pew, pew. Seconds later, you have a baby springing up. And he said, hey, I want to go back to Nigeria. He said, you can go. I'm here. I'm staying here. This is my town. This is my country. This is my identity. And this is my baby. So I think we need to expand and look at the dynamics from all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Professor Gulela, your hand is up again.
It is up again, but it's just
Okay.
to ask another
I wanted to
question.
be sure.
That can we also add that there is this inherent fear in us, fear of strangers. I think it's another factor. Yes, Prof. Sir.
I agree. Fear of the unknown. It's not just a fear of factors, fear of the unknown. What we call in Kano, Riga Bawia. That is a shirt without a neck. I mean, this is somebody that comes in, you don't know who he is. You don't know where he comes from. And he has children. You don't want your children to mix with his own children. Because you don't know the kind of people they are. You don't know their behavior. So all of us, wherever we are in our tight little communities, our tight caves, and we don't want to venture out. And it's not only in Nigeria, it's all over the world for a whole month. It took me a long time to get accommodation because everybody, if I say I'm a Nigerian, yeah, okay, we'll get back to you, no problem. Then after now, oh, I'm sorry, Prof, this place is already taken, but thank you, bye-bye. It took me a long time to get an accommodation from a Hungarian woman. The moment I saw, in fact, at one stage I started saying, hello, I saw you advertise your flat. Yes, well, I'm interested, but I want to tell you that I'm a Nigerian. Bye-bye, good night. They'll close it down. They'll put the phone down. The moment I said that was 1990. Not recently. You're talking about 30 years ago. Nobody wants us to give me a flat because I was a Nigerian. It took me a long time to get a flat from a Hungarian woman who took pity on me and gave me a flat and was charging me a lot of money. But my colleague, who is from Turkey, was given a beautiful one-bedroom flat for less than the money that I was paying for a studio flat. This is all over the world. Really, really. This is a big problem. Thank you.
So, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know, the presenter may have one or two things to share with us before we call it a day. Over to you, Professor Kamal Bello.
I think just to thank everyone for coming to participate and for God himself who created us to give us the chance to present the presentation. I have no more to say since I was away when the questions were asked. So I thank everyone and I thank Professor Abdallah in particular for standing in for me, quote and unquote. So thank you very much, Director. And thank you all participants. And thank you
so much. Okay, thank you. Professor Abdallah made some useful comments for the presentation, which this video, when we send it to you, you have to listen to put into that presentation to make it more robust. And I hope you will find time to look at it, sir. He made some useful comments which we cannot repeat, but thank God that this is being recorded. And I'm sure you will look at it and try to sort some of the things out. Having said that, I can't see any other person's hand up. And because the internet has decided to give us 2 minutes break, it's better for us to leave gently and politely before it throws us out. On this note,
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, before you close, I just want to remind us, please, Director, when sending out this call for papers, I mean, for presenters and so on, don't just rely on the manufactured, generated Zoom invitation. Add a little bit of narrative that we please welcome empirically based papers. A paper that has data, that's something that has meat. Okay, we don't want something a dry paper that's just bone. We want something with meat, something that we can chew and talk and agree to disagree, knock our heads, share our own examples and so on. because a lot of the presentations, over 70% of the presentations that I have witnessed tend to be dry, theoretical, conceptual, and so on. So I think you can come up with just a half a page, a reminder of basic structure of what we're looking for. We don't want to spend 30 minutes or 1 hour just listening to somebody saying, according to this, according to this, according to that. You know, we want you to share that's why you are here. Share experiences, share perspectives. His experiences and perspectives don't have to be, like measured or something. Even if it is a story that you have heard, share it. But the whole idea behind this forum is for us to understand the dynamics of migration, integration, and identity formation. That is why we're here. I want to know, how do people in Sabo Ibadan, Hausa people in Sabo Ibadan feel? And Abna Cohen has written a beautiful book about how the Hausa in Ibadan refuse to integrate. I'd like to see that. Were you Hausa in Ibadan? Or were you from Ibadan? What about you? What your feelings of Hausa? We want those kind of dynamics so that we can share. So please, Director, just add a little prose. Let's even create a small guideline about what we expect from the papers. Less theory, more practice, more data dependent. Even if you have to collect the data from internet, at least let us be aware of the dynamics of this thing on a larger scale, rather than he said, they said, he said, they said, he said, they said kind of thing. Thank you. Matthew, are you tired? You are stretching your hands.
Okay, that is fine. I think as much as possible, we try to have our input into the presentations, but maybe a few cases may not abide, but then we see what we can do, sir, like you have advised. Thank you, sir. So I think we have to call it a day. Despite all odds, we have had the presentation, and at least the few of us that spoke, we have made it interactive. So I want to thank you and say that January is our next meeting by God's grace, and in the new year 2024. So we shall meet by God's grace to have another interesting presentation. And we thank our presenter for today. Like I said, he did not even give me stress in accepting to present here. And so when I reach out to you, or the other people here, please, I want you to emulate Professor Kamal Bello. He was just there, and despite his busy schedule as a dean, was able to put things together and be here today. Please, in the coming year, I need more support from our people. Let us make it as much home-based as possible too. We have many academics on campus in this university, and we can try to be part of this. Thank you so much. I appreciate Professor Abdallah.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm not saying goodbye. I am back. I am back. Is it okay? Is it okay if we get non-academics
yes,
to share their experiences? I think it will enrich.
I said anybody can present. I have brought some non-academics in the past.
Okay, because there is this young man.
I'm just encouraging us here that we can be part of it, because our people here have been at the back bench most times. It's outsiders that have dominated these presentations. But in the last quarter of this year, October, November, December, it's been our own show, which I'm very happy about. In October, we had the Dean of Management Science. In November, the Dean of Arts. And this is December, the Dean of Social Sciences. I'm very elated because they are coming up, and I'm happy. But we've had non-academics. It's not an academic issue. People who have come to share migration experiences with us physically here on this platform before, both white, Indian, and what have you, if you recall. So we've always had, it doesn't have to be an academic thing, but because naturally, when you want to talk about coming to present, people shy away who are not academics. They tend to shy away more, and the academics tend to move forward. It's not like they are not welcome. They are very much welcome.
I have this young man.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Who has experiences of people who have migrated to Makkah, So I'll ask him to come and present to us.
Wonderful. We are waiting, so we can even know what experiences are there and how it is. Even if we are the ones that went to Jerusalem or Israel, we want those people. We want them. We are ready for them. It will make it interesting. Yeah, I think I'm happy with everyone, and I pray that more support, and let's make it more interactive and interesting. Thank you so much. And on this note, I want to say let's have a beautiful ending of 2023, and may God give us the grace to see the coming year and in good health of mind and body. I pray for that for everyone. We shall meet in 2024 by His grace. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right. Bye.